What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's your boy, Marty Bent, here on a Sunday afternoon after Thanksgiving. Back in Brooklyn after heading home with the family for a little bit. But very excited to be back in Brooklyn recording. First YouTube live recording we've done in a while. And I'm only do this on rare occasions. I usually like to get people live in the studio because I think the interaction is a bit pure. But I'm happy to have the two guests that I do today from the company Hodl Hodl in Lafayette. I want to introduce you freaks to Max Keidun and Roman
Snitko.
Yeah, Snitko. I'm sorry, I just know your first names. So guys, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Hey.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Just Max and Roman. I know that our surnames are quite heavy to pronounce, so no worries.
I'm sorry. That's one thing.
No worries about that.
I'm terrible at words, so hopefully that will be only one of the few mistakes that we have here. So yeah, guys, this is how this podcast usually goes. I'm really interested to figure out how you guys found Bitcoin, what drew you to it, and sort of what your tale is. So I guess Roman, if you want to go first, how'd you get into Bitcoin?
Sure. I first learned about Bitcoin in I think it was 2010 or 2011, and I didn't do anything about it back then. I just went to the Hacker News front page, and like half of the front page was about Bitcoin, and one of the articles was about how Gavin Andresen went to the CIA to talk about Bitcoin, and I thought, oh, whoa, that must be interesting. And then I completely forgot about that for a couple of years. And then in 2012, a friend of mine reminded me that there's such a thing as Bitcoin, and by that time, I already read a couple of books on economics, on Austrian economics specifically. So Bitcoin was very interesting in that respect for me. So I looked into it, and I didn't have any money back then, so I couldn't really buy a lot of Bitcoins. And so I started suggesting other people take a look at it, but nobody listened. And eventually I had to buy it myself and learn about it more and started developing projects. So this is the short version of how I got into Bitcoin, and I've been working on Bitcoin-related projects since then.
Hell yeah. What were you doing before Bitcoin?
Just software engineering and, web development. I think Max can take this story from there, because this is how we actually met, because we started working at the same company together.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, so I got into Bitcoin in 2013. I have twists in my story. So I'm like 10 years I was working as a private banker. So I'm from the dark side, and I was working for 10 years as a private banker. And in 2013, one of my clients introduced me to Bitcoin. He was like, we were sitting in the meeting, he was like saying, there will be no need for you bankers like in 10 years because you see there's a Bitcoin. And I was looking at this guy, I was thinking like, what's the heck? He's like crazy one. Why we should use that? Why we should use Bitcoin, some kind of weird money? And then in 2015, I think, but I started researching this topic because I was quite fascinated always about the IT and the finance and the fintech basically. So in 2015, I left the bank and I met Roman. Actually, the same client that introduced me to Bitcoin, he invited me to join his project. Mm-hmm. Roman was working there as CTO, and that's how we met. And in 2016, we started working on Hodl Hodl. So basically, that's since 2013, I'm in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. And are you guys, so ideologically, how did you come to Bitcoin? Are you believers in Austrian economics and more privacy freaks, or?
Yeah, to be honest, I was like, when you're working for 10 years in banks, you see how the system works from the inside. And at some point, I really understood that there's no need for a middleman. Why there should be a person who is like telling you what to do with your money? Why all the transferring process, wealth transferring process, or just payment process should be so difficult. Why you need to pay? Why there's the working hours? Why? And there's a lot of why. So literally at some point, I remember that day I was sitting in my office and I was thinking why I am here, because I'm not the smartest guy, but when I went to Bitcoin, when I'm entering the room, people who are software engineers or economists or people who are doing something within the community, usually I'm one of the dumbest person out there, because these people are smart, literally smart.
I want to say
and
yeah, I heard your speech at the Honey Badger conference. I think you know a bit of what you're talking about.
Yeah, but when you are speaking with the people who are more into conventional finance, like bankers, investment bankers, etc., usually you are one of the smartest guys out there, because of well, at least I felt like that. So and I don't know about Roma, but yeah, I just understood that there's no need of banking industry like in 10 years. And to be honest, in our region, for example, in my country, there's a lot of things happening with the banking industry at the moment that those people who I work with, there's no need of them at the moment. So they're left the banks, and they're trying to find a niche where they can apply their knowledge or where they can work. So things are happening quite fast here.
What kind of changes are happening? Are people losing confidence in the banks, or are people becoming more open to newer technologies?
People are becoming more open to technology. Like, like my little brother, who is like 12 years younger than me, he never been to the bank. He doesn't know he don't know how to go to the bank. You need to fill papers. You need to handle your personal data to some kind of guy who's sitting like on the other side of the desk. He don't know this process, but he literally has a Bitcoin wallet. So because it's easy, he can go to App Store or to Play Store, download the Bitcoin app, and receive Bitcoin like from me, like I don't know, in 10 minutes. That's it.
So, and he's only 12 years old? He's already experimenting with wallets?
No, he's 20 years old. I'm
20, I think so 12.
No, 12 years difference. I would love him to be 12 years old, to be honest. I want to be back in my 24, but yeah, I'm 32, so that's the thing.
No, so I guess, so you guys met while working at this company together. So did Hodl Hodl start out as a side project for you? Were you guys building this while you're working at the company, or did you guys have like a, hey, we need to go build this now, we gotta leave?
No, we actually left the company. I don't want to go into details. We worked for mycelium, and at a certain point, we decided that it's no longer possible for us to stay with the company. And we just went on and started working on Hodl Hodl the same day we left the company. So there was no interference, but at the same time, we were so excited about Hodl Hodl and just going forward. And it wasn't an easy process. Like, it took us, essentially 2 years before we were able to launch the production version.
What were you guys doing in that 2 years? What were you finding out?
Just building the surf. I mean, it was just me and Max. We didn't have any money to hire the team. Yeah, it was just me and Max building and testing and doing all sorts of jobs that now our employees do. Like, we just built it from the ground up. And then the Bitcoin, we were very lucky because the Bitcoin price went up like year and a half later, and we were able to hire our first employee, and then the second one, and then we grew the team. So in that respect, we're very lucky, but we also built it from the ground up. So that's the short version of the story.
And what was your sort of like original view going into building Hodl Hodl? Did you have like a first product that you guys wanted to bang out and then build on top of that, I guess? And then on top of that, like, is there a company mission statement? Like we just
saw local Bitcoins. We both used local Bitcoins, and we saw how actually complicated it is. And we also predicted correctly now that at some point they are going to institute KYC ML policies. And the other significant problem was that local Bitcoins actually held Bitcoins for the customers, just like every other centralized exchange. And at that point, we figured out a way, because I was familiar with the multi-sig technology and how to implement it correctly in the browser. I realized that we can build a better exchange that is non-custodial, right? And Max fully supported this idea. So it actually wasn't mine. It was just, you know, me talking to Max back and forth, exchanging ideas, and we came up with this concept. So we thought, okay, we'll try that, and we'll go from there. And you know, a lot of things change in the process. It's, you know, I don't like this word, but it is agile essentially. This is how a startup should be. So, and here we are today.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So I guess let's touch on and dive into the problems with local Bitcoins that you saw. So on top of like they have custody and now they're implementing KYC, AML. Is there anything with like the user experience that you guys are also building on as well? Because I was going through your tutorial videos earlier this morning, which are incredible, by the way. Will is very, very good at making these tutorial videos. If you freaks have not, if you guys have not,
hooray to Will. He's a great guy.
You freaks got to go to the HODL tutorial page and go through all those videos, especially if like you want to learn how to make like a multi-sig wallet with a business partner or something. That was a 10-minute video, and
that's part of the part of a mission. Sort of, we realized early on that education is very important. So if people would use our exchange, they would need to understand what exactly they were using, right? And some of the videos that are on our website, some of the tutorials and screencasts, they're actually not related to HODL at all. They just explain how to use a wallet, how to use a multi-sig wallet, specifically Electrum. So, and there are some others as well. So even if you don't use our exchange, go ahead and check the screencasts, because you're going to learn something new.
Yeah, no, and it's actually very happy you brought that up. It's like, I mean, that's the mission that I like to see myself on too, is I saw that pain point of education, people sort of misunderstanding this technology and how it relates. And while not be educating people from a technical perspective like you guys are, I like to think that trying to get people attuned to the philosophy and the underlying ethos of why Bitcoin exists. So you can educate from different angles. And yeah, so I think what you guys are doing with the tutorial videos is awesome. But like,
and the other thing I wanted to mention, that there's also a testnet version, which is also for educational purposes. So a lot of people are, and you know, me and Max, we used local Bitcoins. And when I used local Bitcoins for the first time, I almost lost my money there because I was stupid. I released.
What happened?
Well, I released Bitcoins from escrow before receiving fiat currency, right? And I didn't even know what I was doing, right? And this is why we thought it was important to have a really working test net where people can just sign up, try it out for themselves, for like try being both sides of the equation, a seller and a buyer, and see it works, and then they can start and trade for real. So that's part of the education.
Yeah, and again, I spent like an hour and a half, 2 hours this morning going through the tutorials, and I feel like I would be comfortable using HODL Exchange. Unfortunately, I'm not able to, since I'm in Brooklyn right now. But we'll get to that later.
We should talk about it now or later. Okay.
We'll talk about it later. We'll get into it later. I want to talk about specifically the user experience that you guys have on your exchange, because it is a process. But I think you guys are creating a great UX around the product. So from a buyer's perspective, what you can do, I guess that would be a good place to start. How you would sort of incite and begin engaging with this sort of OTC exchange, or PTP exchange, excuse me.
Yeah, well, actually, you mentioned already like a couple of things like security and no KYC AML, and Rom already mentioned about testnet, which is, again, I believe it's quite important, because was trying to research, are there any other exchanges having a testnet? So basically, you can go to the testnet version of exchange. You can try and trade with Bitcoin, with testnet Bitcoins, and then you can reproduce same steps on the mainnet version. And there's actually, I don't think there's much of testnet versions of other exchanges. Educational videos, yes, of course, and yeah, UI and UX. It's quite important because we do understand that peer-to-peer exchanges are usually like way more difficult to understand than centralized exchanges, and because it's peer-to-peer, it's complicated, a bit more complicated, although it's way more secure and more confidential. But we don't understand the hassle with user experience and user interface. So yeah, that's one of the difference. And people, people are always saying, well, yeah, everyone is saying that their user experience, user interface is better than the competitors. But actually, you can go and compare, and you will understand that we're putting a lot of effort to providing a proper experience and providing a proper, understandable interface that people can actually easily buy their first fraction of Bitcoin, or with current prices, even
maybe one
whole
Bitcoin very soon.
Maybe one Bitcoin. Who knows? Maybe in 2 weeks, 2 Bitcoins even. So whatever. But yeah, I think it's for a platform that is offering something to buy or to sell, it's quite important to provide a proper tools and understanding how you can do that easily.
Yeah, so I think let's jump into the marketplace. So to engage in this P2P exchange, basically you have to find somebody who's willing to trade at the same time that you are at this exchange the same amount of Bitcoin at the same time, and then use the same type of money transfer to facilitate the exchange. So they have the option of doing it.
There's actually 2 options. So we have a public offer list, which is more, and we have also the private one. Yeah. So the public offer list is the same, I think, technique that you use in any other peer-to-peer exchange. So you go, you sign up, which is 1 minute, and you go, you find the proper buyer or the seller, or if you don't find, we usually say that create an offer by yourself. It's easy. You can do an offer. If you want to buy, then create a buy offer. If you want to sell, you can create a sell offer, especially as we're 2.5 cheaper than our competitors. Now the price up until the end of exchange fee rate now up until the end of this year is 0.4%. If you compare to our competitors, usual rate for peer-to-peer exchanges is 1% per trade. And so you create an offer, or you take an offer, and then you trade directly from your wallet or to your wallet. Because each time for each trade, we create a unique escrow account. So the seller deposits coins into this escrow account. The buyer sees that coins are deposited. He sends the wire transfer, or sends the cash, or do the payment via any other payment system that he used. And upon receival of fiat, the seller just signs the release transaction, and then you go. The coins are in your wallet, directly in your wallet. So you don't need to deposit anything within HODL. We don't hold any money. Also, the interesting part is that you can use how you want to trade. We have 2 types of multi-sig contracts, 2 out of 2, which is 2 signatures, one to HODL and one to the seller. And release transaction is signed by the seller and by HODL. And there's also a new type of multi-sig that we introduced, multi-sig system that we introduced a month ago, which is 2 out of 3. So it's similar to this. Yeah. Basically, each part of the trade has their own key. So in case of a dispute, we can move money either to seller or either to the buyer. And the another option is the private offer, which we have created this specifically for large OTC traders because they requested the extra layer of confidentiality. And so you can create an offer, but you can tick that it's a private offer. So the offer will be accessible only via direct link. It won't be, you won't see it in the public offer list. So you can, if you have a counterparty already, buyer or the seller, you can just send the link to him and you will trade privately within the HODL using HODL as an escrow.
Mm-hmm. And with the private thing, it could be something like, hey, I'm going to send you this offer just so you can transact over Venmo or cash or anything. And people basically won't know what's going on.
Yeah, people are using this. We actually already saw some significant volume on OTC trades because a lot of OTC traders, they also understand the security risks when they hold coins within any centralized entity, like large OTC desks. They don't want to deposit like 500 coins into any other like wallet that they cannot control, or that is controlled centralized in a centralized manner, because it's basically the similar that you will hold like 500 coins on any other centralized exchange. Eventually, there's a risk that this could be like compromised and hacked.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and in one of Will's awesome tutorials, he's explaining that you guys implemented the 2 of 3 multi-sig because of customer demand for it, right? So you guys are obviously listening to customer feedback and just interested to see how that process is. They're just having people complain on Twitter.
No. Actually, the same OTC traders that requested private offers, they also told us that, well, we trade a large volume, and the buyer, obviously he wants to have some kind of control over the flow of coins. So could you please implement 2 out of 3? We spoke with them, and we actually created that because they insisted. So yeah, we usually speak with our customers, and we have a Telegram group. People are writing in the Twitters, like they're saying, they're like suggesting some improvements. So yeah, we listen to them because it's quite important. You know, we don't have such big volumes like local Bitcoin have, but we do have, I think, quite good support team, and people are like embracing this and saying that, well, it's good that you have proper support. So at least we can like create a loyal customer base using our proper support. And our approach. So yeah, we are listening to our customers, of course.
No, this is actually something I was talking with Jeremy Welch from Casa last week about, is like the power of Telegram for companies building products to get quick user feedback. UX data is actually pretty astonishing. Like we've all known that like Slack and Telegram groups have been big for like trading and altcoin enthusiasts, but specifically with products like HODL and Casa, being able to get that user feedback right away must be incredible for you guys.
I mean, it's kind of an off topic, but I still don't understand why Telegram isn't widely used in, let's say, America or Europe, because it was actually the founder of Kontakte, which is like a Russian social network, a Facebook clone. He invented this Telegram, and it's it's very well known in Russia, very well known in South America and Asia, but for some reason not in America. But I think it is literally the best messenger out there. I've read a lot about the design of I mean the infrastructure that Telegram has, and the cryptography and everything. I mean, there are a couple of questions here and there, but really the interface and the approach, it's the best. So guys, use Telegram. It's not associated in any way with it, but it's the best.
No, and it's been an incredible line of communication for a lot of Bitcoiners, and like I said, the company is looking for feedback, and you just send somebody a link like Casa. I have the Casa node, and I'm in their Telegram, working with that team directly to help with my Casa node, and it's something that I haven't seen before. And I think it's like, we talk a lot about how Bitcoin's going to drive innovations in a lot of places, like energy efficiency and stuff like that. But seeing it drive like innovation at a product like UX level is cool too. So I guess let's get on to the new products you guys are rolling out. Very excited to talk about those. What should we talk about first? Let's talk about the products, and then we'll talk about the US later. So you guys have the OTC desk, which we briefly touched on before, and then Bitcoin futures and a prediction market. It's launching next year, which is very exciting. So
about prediction markets, Roman, and as for OTC, we have OTC desk. We have our brokerage arm, so we're already working on that and already like helping some trades to happen, because again, we have like, I think the only one non-custodial OTC desk out there at the moment. So but I'm also quite excited about the prediction markets that Roma is building with the team. So I think you should touch upon that as well.
Right. Initially it was called Bitcoin futures, but we realized it's not exactly the correct term in that case. So we settled on Bitcoin peer-to-peer prediction contracts, and you can call it a prediction market if you want. And the point is that you can bet Bitcoin on pretty much anything that's legal to bet on, right? So, for example, you think that the price of Bitcoin is going to be above $5,000 by the end of the year. And so you create an offer and say, I'm willing to bet one Bitcoin that the price is going to be above 5,000. Hey, somebody else goes to the website, sees this offer, and creates a contract based on this offer. And both parties, in the simplest case possible, it's a 1-to-1 bet, right? So they both lock one Bitcoin in escrow, and the winner gets 2 Bitcoins, and the loser loses his Bitcoin. That's kind of the point. And of course, it doesn't have to be the price of Bitcoin, but anything that can be easily verified, right? Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do, we're going to moderate offers. So if there's some kind of ambiguity, or if there's something illegal, we're not going to allow that. But anything else, if you want to bet on who's going to win the election,
you're not going to enable assassination markets?
Yeah, but that's a different. Of course not. Of course, that's what I was getting into. Like, if you want to bet whether Trump's going to be the next president once again, you can do that. But nothing illegal for sure.
So I guess.
But I don't think, like, to be honest, I don't think people. I don't like to call this bets, because really it's just a financial instrument that allows people to manage their risks. And it's the first instrument that's actually non-custodial, and that allows people to have those predictions settled in Bitcoin, not in fiat, but in Bitcoin. You can still, and you have kind of the same thing on BitMEX, because they trade futures contracts, right? But it's not the same in the sense that, first of all, they actually hold the Bitcoins, and second, you can bet on price of Bitcoin or price of Litecoin or Ether or whatnot, but it's like the choice is limited. What we're offering is, it's freedom to manage your risks and bet on things that are important to you.
Yeah, and I was being a bit provocative earlier, bringing up assassination markets, because I imagine that you guys are building on perceived faults that you view in Augur or similar prediction markets. I guess you guys are trying to build a separate product, differentiated product. Excuse me. Right. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts on if you see any flaws in a system similar to Augur and what they're doing and what may they be.
The difference with Augur, I think, first of all, they're based on Ethereum, right? As far as I understand. So that's one thing we don't want to touch. We work exclusively with Bitcoin and maybe Litecoin, because it's very similar in terms of technology and code base. But the other thing that Augur does differently, they sort of try to solve the Oracle problem in a decentralized manner. What we're trying to do, so the workflow is going to be pretty simple and straightforward. let's say you make this bet that the Bitcoin price is going to be above 5,000 by the end of the year. So January 1st comes, and you look at the price. Both parties look at the price, and either they both agree that there's a winner and there's a loser, and they sign the release transaction, right? Or one party disagrees for some reason. Maybe they just don't want to give that Bitcoin, but it's already locked in escrow, so it's not coming back to the loser. So in that case, HODL HODL steps in and checks the condition, and then we can sign the transaction to the winning party. That's in case of a 2 out of 3 contract. In case of 2 out of 2 contract, which I predict is going to be less popular with these kinds of contracts, prediction contracts. But if we have a 2 out of 2 contract, then the winner still gets his 1 Bitcoin, and the loser, he loses his 1 Bitcoin, but it's going to be locked in escrow forever. So he has a lot more to lose by not releasing this Bitcoin in favor of the winner. So that's the basic workflow.
Yeah, and so let's talk about decentralized oracles. Do you think it's a problem that can be solved? It's a big topic in this space, especially with prediction markets.
I really don't know. It's just I sort of like have this workflow in mind that we're working on. I think decentralized exchanges, decentralized oracles are actually they do have a place in the community. And I see a lot of people on Twitter. They constantly sort of attack us, and they say, "Oh, you're not truly decentralized, right? You're not a decentralized exchange." We never said that. We are a peer-to-peer exchange. We are non-custodial. So in a sense, we're kind of decentralized in that we don't actually hold the Bitcoins, but we're still centralized because we have a central server, and we will look at the disputes that spring up on our exchange. So I just want people to understand that there's a place in the market for different kinds of exchanges, and BISC is a very interesting project. We are excited that it's becoming popular. It's just that what we're trying to do is to be somewhere in the middle between local Bitcoins and BISC, in the sense that, again, we're not decentralized, but we're also non-custodial, and we are providing an easy to use interface by just being a website and not a software that you have to download.
Yeah, and then the game theory of the reputations, that's another thing that comes with the P2P exchange, the reputation. Yeah. So you get rated as a user, and obviously as a company, if you turn out to be a bad oracle, your reputation will suffer. So you have an incentive to be a good oracle.
Correct. Yeah. I think reputation in general is like a big problem and a very interesting problem. So currently it's also centralized for all peer-to-peer exchanges, but in the future, I mean, there's a very high probability that reputation is going to be kind of like, a separate field of computer science or something. I don't know. At least I see it that way.
Well, let's hope it doesn't go to the dystopian future that China's.
Yeah. That's a different story. I mean, I know we're all looking at it, and it's just it's horrible. It's just frightening.
Yeah. So how do you guys handle it for buyers and sellers on HODL HODL? I'm pretty sure it's pretty straightforward, but how is the experience for the user? Rating their experience. How does that work out? Does it happen immediately after the transaction? Just pops up?
It usually happens after the trade is completed. So basically, you complete the trade, and each one is like writing the commands and rating the another party. Quite similar to local Bitcoins, to be honest. There's no reason to invent a bike in that case, because maybe we will touch upon the reputation and making it like a bit more sophisticated in future, because I know that Roma has a dream to create a proper reputational system that can be like used by multiple exchanges and can be decentralized. Maybe at some point, yeah, why not?
Let's talk about this dream, Roman. Expand on it. What is your dream? Well, the dream is a sort of decentralized reputation, and I had this dream. I've been having this dream for a very long time, and like maybe since 2013, and I've been talking about this idea to very smart friends of mine, and they all trashed it. So I guess I'm wrong. But the point is, I do think reputation is a very important part of the economy. Like, a lot of problems might be solved if we had a better reputational system that is not centralized, that cannot be cheated, and like to describe it concisely, I mean, I think you like imagine a graph, right? And you might not know the person that you need to know. Like, let's say you want to have business with a person. You don't know him, but a friend of a friend of a friend knows him, and he says this person's good, right? So here comes the graph database through which you make this connection, and you can calculate the reputation relative to you, the reputation of that person relative to you, and then figure out whether you want to have business with that person or not. And like, even if it's some scammer that creates multiple accounts, that's that bump up his reputation on the system, it still wouldn't matter, because all of those bots, they wouldn't be connected to you, so it wouldn't affect this person's rating relative to you. So that's like the short version of the idea. But there's never time. Currently focusing on hodl, and hopefully someone much smarter than I am eventually creates something like that.
Well, I do too. But how do you envision that changing the world and changing the economy? Do you just think it will create certain efficiencies that we have not untapped up to this point?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just you go to a foreign country and you don't even know, like you let's say you rent a car and then something happens to your tire, you get a flat tire, you need to find a good mechanic or something. It's just like these sorts of problems, or whether you want to eat at that place, whether you want to go to see that doctor. I mean, these problems are solved to an extent, but there's definitely a lot of room for improvement. And like even if you look at Amazon, there are lots of fake reviews. This is a problem that Amazon cannot solve. Like if you want to buy a book, and I've seen books that get like 5-star reviews, and there's like 50 people reviewing this book 5 stars, but it's actually trash, and they cannot solve it. And I think a graph system that is decentralized can tackle that problem. So yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, but actually, I wanted to touch upon the reputation on hodl. We at some point we understood that we're quite young and we have a new platform, and a lot of other peer-to-peer exchanges, they have well-established profiles or reputation for traders that are willing to use hodl as well. So we have created this thing that is called peer-to-peer profile. You can basically transfer your reputation from other platform to hodl, and people will be able to, even if you don't have any trades on hodl, they will see your profiles on other exchanges, and they will understand that you are decent and a proper trader. So you can do that on hodl as well. So it was one thing that we have improved in terms of sharing the rating and reputation system on hodl.
No,
yeah,
really
that's a great point that Max just talked about. I think currently people are unable to export their reputation from one website to another. And specifically, if we're talking about peer-to-peer exchanges, they're incentivized to try and keep it local, right? They don't want sites like hodl to transfer that data, but we still are able to do that. And Paxful did it to local Bitcoins. We did it to both Paxful and local Bitcoins, and we actually talked to them about that. Like, there's nothing you can do, but it's still not straightforward. And I think for any peer-to-peer exchange or any website that requires some sort of reputation, let's say a freelancer's website, it would be so beneficial to have the system in place that they don't have to build it themselves like we did, but they would just need to implement it and and let their users have it. So,
well, could you guys make like an open API that other sites could call on, or?
Fortunately, no. Not at this point. It's still we're planning on doing this because we have a lot of requests, and Max can talk about this properly. But yeah, it's coming.
We have a lot of requests on doing the API. Most probably first half of 2019, we will be able to roll out an API. Yeah, so we're working on that. So hopefully in 2019 we will have a proper API.
Yeah, no, I think that actually brings up a good, interesting point, because I'm like, I don't know if you guys know, but I'm like a UX nerd and a product nerd in particular. So I actually like that you guys are like, hey, we'll get to this eventually. So like, you guys have a lot of stuff on your product roadmap. So how do you prioritize and decide what to work on, and at what pace you should start building this out?
Well, we have an like quite small team, to be honest. So sometimes we even don't have any options to choose. You know, we just understand that we need to build something. Like for API, we've received a lot of requests from companies that trade Bitcoins on other peer-to-peer platforms. They have their own platforms, or they have their own software. They want to connect with us and to like automate, like make it automatic to some extent. The trading makes it automatic. But usually, well, we have like, I don't know, special channel in the Slack, and our team members, they exchange the ideas. And if we like any idea, like from our team member or from our customers, then we just make it, and that's it. We don't have any like strict priority what we need to do, but what we're trying at the moment is to make HODL as profitable as possible at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. The profitability. So we're always, one criteria that we're thinking about, is this going to make us money? Unfortunately, we have to think about it, because it's not about like, you know, getting filthy rich or something. We need to be sustainable. Like, we raised a round now from private investors, because we realized we needed to move faster and so on and so forth. But eventually, you know, we're going to need to be making money, and that's the priority. I think it's a big mistake for many projects right now in Bitcoin. They sort of relied on Bitcoin price to be high, you know, and they thought, oh, we can go on forever, but they can't. They need to have a sustainable business model that does not depend on the price. And that's what we're trying to do. That's how we prioritize features.
Yeah, this week has certainly proved that.
Yeah, but also we always looking at the ethical side of the making money, as we say, because we've had like a lot of offers to make an ICO with HODL, or to promote ICO during our conference, during Honey Badger. So we refused on them, because, you know, it's and we see now actually that in Bitcoin and crypto community, two main things that usually pays out is long-term strategy and reputation. If you don't have that in place, most probably you will fail. So that's the core values at the moment.
Yeah, I completely agree. So what are you guys thinking that which areas of your business do you think are going to be most likely to drive profits for you guys as you expand the offerings?
So I think that we have like four main areas, or even 5 areas that we're working on. One is not connected with the exchange. So first of all, it's the retail part, which is peer-to-peer trades, which is like public offer list. Another one is OTC. The market out there is booming, actually, not depending on the price. The sales are still going, the trades are going, and the volume out there is like 3-4 times bigger than the volume on all centralized exchange, because you can have like one trade with 1,000 coins per trade, and that's it. So basically, some exchanges even don't have such turnover in a week. So the third thing is future or prediction markets, as Roma said, because we already been like approached by some people who are working in that field. They're quite interested because of, again, it's peer-to-peer. We cannot manipulate that. Basically, we cannot shut down the hodl and say like we will liquidate your shorts or longs or whatever, or we can or we will trade against you. That some of the exchanges actually
something
do.
that BitMEX is quite famous for, by the way. So,
again, I'm not naming anyone, so just
right,
Roma is like
I'm just like I'm looking at Twitter every time there's a big price movement in Bitcoin, BitMEX goes down, and they're like, "Oops, we're liquidating you," right? And a lot of people are pissed off because of that, and there would be no way for us to do that if it's peer to peer. So hey guys, if you're disillusioned with BitMEX, come to HODL.
I mean, yeah, and I mean, you guys bring up a good point. Like, build a product where you make that impossible, and it might be impossible for users not to use it in the long run. Like, why would they use anything else?
Well, they would, like if they're day traders.
Yeah, but still, centralized exchange are suitable for day traders. You know, you have a fast order execution automated, so you won't be able to reach that speed on the peer-to-peer exchange. At least at the moment, you won't be able. You need to sustain a proper liquidity list. Like, you know, sometimes you will have to fill the orders by yourself, and at some point that can be like you won't have the balance of selling and buying or something like that. So finishing up, the fourth project is House HODL, which is buying and selling real estate with smart contracts that we have, basically with Bitcoin. The same thing that is going with HODL, except of fiat, you are selling or buying the house with the Bitcoin, with the 2 out of 3 multi-sig. Yeah, we have that as well. We actually, our seed funding, part of that will go to developing House HODL as well.
So let's talk about House HODL.
Yeah,
Can we talk about House HODL before we die?
Yeah. So basically, it's a platform for buying or selling real estate with Bitcoin. You will be able to list your property on that platform. You will be able to remotely sign the papers on this platform, and you will be able to use our escrow for buying and selling real estate. So basically, we are just removing the banks from the equation. So the same escrow that you use in the bank, but it will be the crypto escrow. But we're going to launch it in 2019 because we do understand that with the current bear market conditions, nobody is actually willing to spend money or Bitcoins on buying the house. It was actually quite interesting that we've been approached with some people during the bull market last year when the price was like above 10,000. People were saying like, hey, with your like functionality, we can buy something like valuable. But now, you know, in this bear market condition, I think prediction markets are way more profitable, and there's a huge potential for that because people will always bet on the price movement or on certain like things that events that are happening. So yeah, that's quickly about House HODL. And the fifth part, of course, is a Baltic Honey Badger conference. So it's also the part of HODL brand, but it's not connected with the exchange. Well, the one connection is that we do that, but the Honey Badger is something that we're going to continue to organize each year.
Please do. I had the pleasure of attending this year. It was it's one of the best organized conferences I've been to in the space, and the talent and the concentration of people dedicated to Bitcoin in particular, not shit coins or ICOs, was something I haven't seen at a conference in the industry ever up to this point. And then being able to travel to Riga. Riga is a beautiful city. It was a very fun experience.
Thank you. And that's also a returning to having a long-term plan and a reputation. You know, first year we barely made it like break even, so we didn't earn anything on doing this conference. Although there was like a lot of offers from ICO shelves that hey, we can pay you, you can like show our IC on your conference. We refused everything. And this year, actually, we even made some profits with the conference.
Nice.
So yeah.
What's that experience like, putting together the conference? I can imagine it's hectic.
It's crazy. I'm like 2 months before and 1 month after that, I'm like just in it's I don't know how to it's something like I don't know how to describe this condition that I am into that, because most of the field work I do, Roma is helping me as well, but he's like too far away from Riga. I'm here, and I think like 2 weeks ago I feel like relief. I just understood that everything had finished and the conference was good and all. It's like 2 weeks ago, and the conference ended like in the end of September. So you can imagine that you still have like stress for 1.5 months after the conference. But it's always a funny, and people are saying that it's actually a good conference. We're doing good things, and I still don't believe them, but you know,
you better believe them. No, it was
hopefully they're honest.
There was like a palpable. I don't know how to describe the feeling, but like the vibes were very high. People were very engaged, and a lot of my favorite parts of the conference over the weekend were during the coffee breaks outside, meeting people you've only ever conversed with online for the first time. And there was a lot of people talking seriously about like Bitcoin attack vectors and security concerns, and every conversation was in depth and enthralling.
To me, I had a friend of mine visiting the conference, and he said to me that so we both attended San Jose 2013 Bitcoin conference, and there was a great vibe there. And he said it's the same vibe because he actually, for the first time at a Bitcoin conference, he saw the same people who attended the conference in 2013. And then for me specifically, the after party really reminded me of the San Jose 2013 conference, because it was so packed. Like, you turn and you meet another person, and it was so awesome. That's what I loved about it, because there was no. It was easy to meet people, great food, great beer, and outside it's just beautiful. So.
Yeah, I remember sitting in a circle and Eric Voskuil was holding court, like talking for 4 hours about his views, and it was like, whoa, he's like a fire hose. He's really intense. He's one of the most interesting dudes in the space to me. I love his views.
That is true. I agree with that completely. Yeah. His GitHub pages related to like Bitcoin economics. It's just one of the best.
Yeah, it really is.
Readings out there for sure.
You freaks should check that out. The LibBitcoin wiki, right? Yeah.
Definitely check this out. Eric Voskuil, LibBitcoin. Just go read. It's an amazing read for sure.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot.
Yeah. Thank you guys for throwing the conference. It was an incredible experience. I was jet lagged for like 4 days. I never got adjusted to the time zone, but needless to say, the vibes at the conference kept me up.
Yep. Next year it's going to be better.
Okay.
Trust me. Yeah. We already have a list of potential speakers, so most probably somewhere in the beginning of March we'll announce a new fundraiser.
Hell yeah. I guess let's jump into another topic, which many people here in the States might not actually know, because I was fact checking this before we hopped on. I asked my co-host for Rabbit Hole Recap, Matt Odell, who's usually very on top of all the latest happenings in the space. I thought I had seen a tweet from you guys saying that you had to block US customers. So I asked Matt, and he said, no way. And it turns out pre-interview, you guys said, yeah, that happened this week. So you guys have had to shut off access to HODL from US users. Sorry for me. That's unfortunate for me. Anybody else here in the States, but I guess you guys could jump into the reasons for doing that and why you had to do that.
Yeah, I think Roma can explain that because he was the mastermind behind this.
That is true. I was so actually all the trades that happened in the U.S. On our exchange, they were from licensed traders, right? So they were licensed in the states that we're trading in. So it was all completely legal, but we didn't allow any unlicensed trades at all in the U.S. But even then, we decided to pull the plug and restrict U.S. Citizens and residents from trading on our exchange. And the reason is quite simple. The regulatory burden, it's too much. The truth is, we need to protect our exchange. We need to protect our employees and our business. And the truth is that if any of the agencies in the U.S. decides they don't like HODL HODL because we work with American customers, that's going to be a huge problem for us. So, I mean, at least we're going to have a lot of expenses in terms of like lawyers and litigation and all that, which we don't want to have at all. Like we definitely do not do anything illegal, but it's just the burden. We know how is it in the United States. They try to prosecute people all over the world, regardless of their nationality and their location and anything. And it's just something that you have to deal with. And that was our decision. A lot of exchanges in the space, they actually do that. BitMEX, to name the biggest one, and then you also have Bitfinex, and there are local exchanges like the one in Thailand. I think they're called Bitcoin NTH or something, or BX NTH. Anyway, they all block U.S. customers regardless of their location, and I think that says a lot about the situation. I mean, unfortunately, I think the U.S. market is sort of saturated with exchanges that are licensed already. So U.S. customers have a lot of choice in terms of purchasing Bitcoin and trading Bitcoin. And if we talk about like market share, even if there was no regulatory burden at all, we would still not be interested in the U.S. market. It's not a big peer-to-peer market. The most activity in peer-to-peer markets happen in Eastern Europe, in Asia, in Latin America. So this is where we want to be.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to say. The burden is so much to put up with the U.S. regulations, and it's not even worth it for you guys because most of your volumes come from Russia and Latin America. You said correct?
Yeah, the most of the peer-to-peer volumes actually at the moment are from Eastern Europe, Russia, Ukraine, and Latin America. Like if you will check it out, the peer-to-peer stats on local Bitcoin, I think the most liquid market for them and the biggest market for them is Russia at the moment. Although they're officially blocked in Russia, so also Asia, also Africa. So there's a lot of like peer-to-peer markets are emerging markets, so it's suitable for emerging markets. As for US, well, yeah, it's like legal and security risk for us. So no offense, guys, it's just a business. So
no,
we really have a lot because we saw some, like most of the people actually, even from US, they supported us in our decision. If you check the Twitter thread, some of
I support
the people some of the people started like saying like, hey, you are like bootlickers or whatever.
How does that even make any sense?
Yeah, because it's like, you're choosing the less evil thing. We believe that blocking US market and not implying KYC AML at any point is less evil thing than having the US market and implying the KYC AML. What's the difference then between HODL HODL and Coinbase or any other exchange with KYC AML? What's the reason for us to be there? There's no reason to be there. So that's it.
I think was going to say, I think this brings up an interesting point, though. Like, it's funny, like America is supposed to be the bastion of freedom, the home of freedom and all that. And yet a lot of companies don't even want to work here because it's too burdenful and it's not as free as people would think. So as an outsider looking at the US, like as a country that likes to tout ourselves as the home of the free, like what is your perspective on these types of regulatory hurdles? Are we as free as we may think we are?
May I just comment on the land of freedom and all of that? I think there's, to me, the way I look at it.
Roma, just don't forget you are planning to you have some plans. Just
yes, that is
say
to
like,
visit the United States. Yes.
Yeah. Just like don't say it out loud, you know.
Of course, no. I was just going to say that I think people in the U.S. they have this mindset of freedom, right? Most of them, I would say, they have this mindset because of the legacy of how people immigrated to the United States in search of freedom and less taxes, less restrictions, all of that in search of a better life, and they endured a lot of things on their way, and I think that still persists. But at the same time, in practical terms, you would actually find a lot more freedom in China or Russia or in Asia or in Latin America, because the United States is so heavily regulated in many areas that it just makes it impossible for the small guy to start a business and actually make it. I mean, it's easy to start a business, but it's not easy to comply with all sorts of regulations if you want to get big. So, I mean, I hope that's going to change, because I think, again, in practical terms, there's more freedom in other countries. But in terms of the mindset, I think American people really value freedom. They really understand what it's all about. I mean, that's how I see it, and it's a paradox, right? It's so weird, but that's how it is.
It's ironic. It's like it blows my mind. I would say, like, many Americans like me have like an aversion to authority. Like I know I do in general, and I like freedom of individual thought. Obviously, that's why we have this podcast. That's why we're into Bitcoin. But the system under which that we live is not as freedom enabling as some people would like to think. I would say. And that was my comment on American regulation for the day. Yeah, so I guess we hit on a lot of what I wanted to hit on, but I guess let's talk about Bitcoin in particular. What are you guys? Obviously, the price has been tanking the last 5 days pretty heavily. We're getting into the depths of the bear market, but before we talk about price or anything, we can focus on price later, but from a development perspective, Bitcoin, from a scaling perspective, from a security perspective, like, what do you guys think of the state of Bitcoin right now in 2018 as we approach the 10-year anniversary?
Roma?
Why me? I was just
yes, you're the technical guy, you know. There's like scalability and all this weird words that that I don't understand. Okay, I do understand them, of course, but yeah. I think that there's like this saying that bear markets are good for developers, and to be honest, I really believe that. You don't have the pressure of the price to build something fast, to earn some money. So, and I think that overall this bear market is good, because a lot of people that wasn't actually understanding the proper economics and all of the tech and all of the stuff, they were just speculating. They get to wipe out of the market. ICO are like, it's so 2017 now, and I'm so happy that it's 2017, and all other shitcoins are like falling down, and it's good.
There's a great cleansing.
I do believe that it's. Of course, of course, everyone wants like Bitcoin, like that will cost like at least 20,000. But we will eventually be there at some point, and I think it's not so far future away from now. But in terms of tech development, I think that Lightning and other things that are happening at the moment is fascinating. And then I read an article to think few days ago that the actual the processing power of Bitcoin is now 8 billion, which is almost the same as the Mastercard with 11 billion. So I think the market is growing. Although some people are saying that, hey, the volumes of the trades are falling and all other stuff. But in general, I think the adoption is there, and we see that a lot of, even in this bear market condition, a lot of startups, proper startups, are opening, and they get developed and good for infrastructure.
I will say this: I think a bear market is definitely good for developers, although it's very uncomfortable. I will tell you from my own experience and from the experience that we had at HODL when the price hit 20. And our company was self-funded. We were like, hey, we're going to do this and that, all of those things. We don't care. and then when the price went back to 6 and now it's 3, you actually have to start thinking. You actually have to start thinking what is something the market wants? What is it prepared to pay for? And how do you survive? And I think it's very important because, when you have a lot of money, it makes you weak. It makes you lazy,
complacent,
and I think yes, and that's very, very dangerous. And I still consider us very lucky. We have wonderful investors who really understand our business and our project and what we're trying to achieve, and that really helps us. And the price, nobody knows what's going to happen. Maybe it's going to go to like $1,000 or $100. Who knows? That might happen. I'm not predicting that, but you have to just understand that you need to actually, if you want to make money, you need to build something that's really useful and something that the market wants. Look at the richest companies, Bitcoin companies out there. Who are they? They're Bitcoin exchanges, right? Or they're miners, because they actually build what people want. People want to trade, people want to bet, and people want to transact. This is what miners do. That's their business, right? Some other companies, they build hardware wallets. This is also something that people want. They have continuous business, right? So if you're just holding, that's fine. But if you're thinking that you can become rich by just trading Bitcoin, I don't think that's going to happen. And I had a rant about this on YouTube. I'm not going to repeat that, but just don't trade Bitcoin. Go ahead and build something.
Right. No, I'm very appreciative of what you guys are building at HODL again. Even though I can't use it, I think it is a very important product to be made. And like you guys said earlier, it is you're just creating optionality for users where you can go hardcore BISC or you can go local Bitcoins, but you guys are in the middle and experimenting with that use case. And to me, it seems like an incredible user experience that a lot of people would prefer compared to both extremes. Where you get no KYC AML, but you have the luxury of having a third party to intermediate when need be.
Yep. I have nothing to add to that. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. I guess that's all I have to ask you guys today. I guess the last question for each of you, do you have a parting note for the freaks out there? Anything that you think people should be focusing on or thinking in this bear market?
Well, I don't know. Focus on something that is not related to Bitcoin. If you cannot bear with the price, just relax. Spend some time with your family or with your friends, or just travel around, do something, read a proper book.
Yeah, it was just Thanksgiving here in the States, and I spent 4 days not thinking about Bitcoin. It was great.
And if you are into for a long run, then just HODL and don't worry about that, because you need people are constantly saying you need to look at fundamentals, blah blah blah, but it's true. You need to look at fundamentals, whether you believe that this technology and the community behind this technology, which is awesome, will change the world. Or whether you don't believe. If you don't believe, then just sell your coins to someone who believes, and that's it. Go out. I don't know, look for another opportunity. If you do believe, then follow.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just going to say that, you know, you're in it for the technology, right? But you actually are. And you're also in it for the people you meet and, you know, the friends you make along the way. I mean, it's so pathetic. It sounds pathetic, but it's actually true. I'm a lot more proud of the fact that I met so many amazing people, and the fact that I managed to stay through like 3 bear markets by now. And I lost a lot of money, but who cares? Like, it's you actually learn that it's not about the money. The money, it's just the means, right? And you just need to find something that actually drives you through all this. And Bitcoin just provides a lot of different opportunities. Meeting people, writing code, learning something. Do that. I mean, that's how you win.
And to touch on that, like, I think the really important thing in this like sort of crux of what you're getting at there is that Bitcoin provides this common mission that anybody and people from various different backgrounds can work towards, and that's something that's important for humans, is having a mission, having a common mission, having a bond, like, hey, we're building something, and Bitcoin provides that, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's very true. Like, you meet a Bitcoiner that you know, it doesn't matter which country he's from, but you pretty much know that he's going to share the same values, the values that are important to you. It's amazing. Like, you know, you speak different languages, but he actually understands what you're about, and you understand what he's about. It's kind of cool. Like, you don't have to explain a lot of things. You don't have to. They just know, right? And that's what we saw at the conference. So hopefully, I mean, that's a lesson that we'll learn from the bear markets.
Yeah. Well, glad to be on the front lines of this bear market with you two.
Yep.
Appreciate what you guys are building. Appreciate you guys coming on and having this conversation with me. And then the conference, the Baltic Honey Badger Conference. Thank you for throwing that. Again, it was one of the best I've been to up to this point in my life, and it was a lot of fun. Highly recommend you freaks go if you can attend next year.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks a lot for having us, Marty.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it. That's all we got today, freaks. Peace and love.
Cheers. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.